Hello everyone, and welcome on back to the channel. We are talking about some World of Warcraft today. I know. However, no one told me that the priest talent tree was open to the public like days ago. And I'm a priest. So I woke up and I saw this. I went diving in and I was like, oh, talent trees? I'm definitely going to talk about that. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over the priest talent tree and specifically talk about discipline priest, as I was a discipline priest main. So that's where my expertise tends to lie. So let's head on over to the WoW head and talk about all things priest talent trees. We are here on the WoW head, and I'm going to go over the base priest tree in this video and then touch on the discipline priest as well. There might be other videos going over holy and maybe shadow priest. Let's talk about the trees. When you are a priest, you get, and every class, you get your very first tree for your general class, and then you have this specific second tree for your specialization that you choose. And for the priest, we start out with Prayer of Mending, as well as Shadow Word Death. Prayer of Mending is a staple. You cast this on a target, and if they take damage, a light will jump to another ally, which will then heal them if they're struck. For the healing purposes, we're going to go down really the left side. We also get access to Renew. So because this is on your base class tree, even discipline priests are going to get access to Renew. You have further augments to Prayer of Mending, as well as Renew. Renewed Faith, your healing is increased by 5% on targets with your Renew. So if you're able to pop up a few Renews on, maybe in a dungeon scenario, and then as a discipline priest, use Power Word Radiance to just then heal allies in an area, you'll be able to get a little bit more healing out of that in an AoE situation. Enlightenment is nice to further gain mana generation. We also have Focused Mending. Prayer of Mending does 45% increased healing to the initial target, which is pretty good. It's pretty chunky, 45%. And the very first trait that we have to choose from is between Angelic Feather and Body and Soul. Personally speaking, I tend to rely mostly on Body and Soul, just because as a discipline priest, you are going to be using Power Word Shield quite often, so you don't really have to think about it. It's not another ability to worry about. Though, Angelic Feather does come in handy if you have a little bit more mastery and skill with placing the feathers down at certain locations. You also get access to your Purify Disease and Dispel Magic here, and interestingly enough, in the first block of talents, you get Power Infusion on the core priest talent tree. Further down the line, you get access to Holy Nova, which as a discipline priest is pretty good because you are going to be damaging often. You also get to heal other allies as well. It's more of a direct, on-demand, small AoE heal that you can utilize. Improved Holy Nova is really interesting actually. If your Holy Nova deals damage to at least 3 enemies, a second Nova will be cast a moment later at half of the effectiveness as the original Holy Nova. And I wonder if this also includes the healing output. So if you're able to get a second one out of this, you'll just get another splash heal perhaps, which I find to be really interesting. Tools of the Cloth, while your Power Word Shield is active on you, Holy Nova deals 10% additional damage. I'm not sure if this also interacts with Atonement, but we might check that a little bit later. Clear Mind, Dispel Magic, Augmentation, Shackle Undead, a little bit more of utility skill, and then Twins of the Sun Priestess. Power Infusion also grants you 100% of its effect when used on an ally. I think this is a must for Discipline Priest, especially if you are gonna be taking Power Infusion and running with that. I don't see why you wouldn't. It's such a great skill, and even for Shadow Priests, this is going to be fantastic. The ability to also gain the damage increase from Power Infusion, incredible. I honestly wouldn't mind, or I was kind of expecting this to be at like a 50% of its effect, rather than at 100, because this is 25% haste. The more bottom line, when we're going to stick kind of once again to the left, focusing on that healing aspect. Furthest left tends to be more holy, straight up healing. The middle kind of is more utility shielding focused, probably better suited for Discipline Priest. And then the right side of this tree tends to be more shadow and damage focused. So we have Blessing of Renewal. Renew heals for an additional 5% and its mana cost is reduced by 10%. As a Discipline Priest, this will actually be pretty nice, and especially for Holy. Unwavering Will. While above 75%, the cast time of your Flash Heal, Prayer of Healing, and Smite are reduced by 10%, and we can stack that up twice. I'm not sure if the second tier of this is the 10%, or if that will then increase it to like 15% or something. I'm not exactly sure. But this will be very, very useful for Holy Priest and Discipline Priest. I'm not sure if this will be super useful for Shadow Priests, but you'd probably be sticking more to the right side of this. And then finally, we have the ability Holy Word Life. This reminds me of an old priest trait. Was it Life Transfusion or something, where you would swap health with an ally target? I used to use that back in Mists of Pandaria, which I think is when they would then remove it. But this kind of is like that, but not as much of a direct incarnation. This is a word of holy power that heals the target for 150% of spell power. If the target is not below 20% health, the caster takes damage equal to the amount healed. So this really is going to be an emergency heal situation, because if you use it and they're not low on health, you're going to take pretty hefty damage yourself. Healing is increased by 150% to targets below 20% health. So this is truly an emergency situation. It's on a 30-second cooldown, so use this wisely. Next up in the middle line, we have Charitable Soul. Casting Power Word Shield on an ally also shields you for 5% of the amount for 10 seconds. Finally, really for the Discipline Priest, we have Crystalline Reflection. Power Word Shield instantly heals the target for 42% of your spell power and reflects 20% of the damage absorbed. Very nice. Getting a little bit extra heal on your Power Word Shield is going to be invaluable, as well as reflecting damage. Now let's look at the actual Discipline Priest talent tree that is specific to Discipline Priests. We have Atonement. Atonement, Power Word Shield applies Atonement to the target for 30 seconds, and your spell damage heals all targets affected by Atonement for 50% of the damage done. Power Word Shield, Shadow Mend, and Power Word Radiance apply Atonement to your target for 15 seconds. It's interesting because, like, it says Trinity, Power Word Shield applies Atonement for 30 seconds. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Maybe it does apply for 30 seconds, who knows? But of course, your spell damage heals all targets affected by Atonement for 50%. Now, I'm wondering if this also includes situations with Holy Nova, Mind Blast, any other shadow magic. I imagine it does, because it doesn't clarify where it's like Smite and Penance and Power Word Solace damage heals the target for 50%. Of course, we have Penance, which is a staple for Discipline Priests, and Inner Light and Shadow. Inner Light, your healing spells cost 15% less mana, and Inner Shadow, your spell damage and Atonement healing is increased by 10%. Activate to swap from one effect to the other, incurring a 6-second cooldown. So this seems to be a spell buff that you apply onto yourself, and you kind of go back between the light mode and the shadow mode, where if you want to go light, your healing spells are going to be, your direct healing spells are going to be stronger. If you're in the shadow mode, your atonement is going to be a bit stronger as well. I will probably see myself camping a bit more in Inner Shadow because I like the playstyle of atonement healing. Of course, shielding and direct heals are nice when you need them, but I tend to enjoy atonement a little bit more. Next up, we have the next choice, which is between Power Word Solace and Shield Discipline. I oftentimes run with Solace. You get some more damage, which applies Atonement, of course. Next, we have Castigation. Penance fires one additional bolt. This is pretty similar to what it currently is. Power of the Dark Side, you have to choose it to infuse Shadow Word Pain has a chance to empower your penance with Shadow, increasing its effectiveness by 50% in terms of the damage, I believe. Power Word Radiance, this is a staple as well, a nice tool to use to spread atonement to allies in the area. Though, do note that atonement is only lasting 60% of its normal duration, so it's a little bit shorter, but it does give you access to Area of Effect healing and atonement application. Shining Radiance, Power Word Radiance's healing is increased by 10%, a little bit extra flat healing if you need a little bit more of that. And then we have improved Power Word Radiance. You gain an additional charge if you want to do so. Pain Suppression is your go-to. Pain Suppression is wonderful. Reduces all damage taken by a friendly target by 40% for 8 seconds, and you can cast this while stunned. You can choose to then Power Word Shield, reduces the cooldown of Pain Suppression by 2 seconds if you really want to be using Pain Suppression more often, though Pain Suppression, I have been fine with it being at a 3-minute cooldown. Shining Force is nice CC, as well as Psychic Voice as well. Sins of the Many, your damage is increased up to 12%, diminishing for each ally affected by your atonement. And then Pain Transformation. Pain Suppression also heals your target for 5% of their maximum health. This is also nice for, once again, a little bit more upfront healing. Let's go down the left side a little bit more. We have Contrition. When you heal with Penance, everyone with your atonement is healed for a minor amount. So this means that if you're not damaging with Penance but choose to instead heal, you're still going to get AoE application of that healing. It's going to be much less, but it's going to be something. Purge the Wicked is my staple. I love Purge the Wicked so much. Having the ability to spread damage over time effects to multiple enemies, which would then tick more atonement. I love Purge the Wicked, and I will probably be going for this. Revel in Purity. Purge the Wicked deals 10% additional damage and spreads to 1 additional target. Once again, just getting that AoE application of Purge the Wicked, this will be really, really fun to play around with. Going over to the right a little bit more, we have Swift Penitence. As well, the damage or healing of your first bolt of penance is increased by 10%. We of course have Schism, which increases your damage to that target by 25%. I like this. Shadow Covenant is in here. We're seeing a lot of the staple traits, trait choices that we are very familiar with from Legion, Battle for Azeroth, and of course Shadowlands now. So Shadow Covenant is one that has been reworked a few times, and now that you can actually take both Shadow Covenant, Purge the Wicked, and multiple other spells in this, we might see a little bit more use out of it, at least from my side. Maybe in certain areas of gameplay with like dungeons and mythic dungeons, I think people took Shadow Covenant, but this makes a Shadowy Pact, healing the target and 4 other injured allies within 30 yards. For 7 seconds, your Shadow spells deal 25% increased damage and healing, but your Holy spells deal 50% decreased damage and healing. So it's a bit more of a trade-off. You'll go from pure light mode to kind of focusing more on pure shadow mode, where you're going to be relying on those big damage hits from shadow magic and those big healing hits from shadow magic as well. Let's talk about Rapture a little bit. Immediately Power Word Shield your target, and for the next 8 seconds, Power Word Shield absorbs an additional 200% and may be cast on targets with weakened soul. This feels like it's going to be an ability where you have to then place it on a target first, like you use Rapture on someone, which is interesting, instead of it just being like a personal buff. Exaltation, Rapture's duration is increased. We then have our next few choices at the very bottom of the Discipline Priest talent tree, which is Evangelism and Spirit Shell. Evangelism extends the duration of all your active atonements, which is what I will probably be taking. But Spirit Shell, for 10 seconds, Penance, Power Word Radiance, and Atonement create absorb shields for 80% of their value instead of healing. So if you want to go more pure damage mitigation rather than pure healing, say you're in a raid with another holy priest and they kind of have the front-loading healing set, they don't really need any more of that. If you instead want to play more of that damage mitigation role, Spirit Shell is probably going to be fantastic. I love Atonement, so I'll probably just go Evangelism, but it is actually nice to see that Spirit Shell has been reworked from what I previously understood it to be. So Spirit Shell, congratulations. We then have Evenfall, or Evanfall. Power Word Radiance has a 30% chance to grant Power of the Dark Side, which, if we go back up here, will increase your penance. So this will have some interaction with Power of the Dark Side. You'll be using Radiance more often as well. Harsh Discipline looks fantastic to me. When Atonement has healed a total of 100 times, your next penance is free and fires 3 additional bolts. Not just 1 additional bolt, but like multiple more, which is going to increase your damage or your healing, and also healing from atonement. Next up, we have Indemnity, which atonement granted by Power Word Shield lasts an additional 2 seconds. Atonement, great. I love having atonement roll on people more often. It's up more, you can do more damage, you get more healing out of it. Love it. Of course, we have Power Word Barrier, staple, absolute staple. Definitely going to be taking this, and yeah, it reduces damage by 25% for all allies in the area. Lesson in Humility, Smite deals 10% additional damage if you have at least 3 Atonement active. Honestly, I could see myself taking this. Lenience, Atonement reduces damage taken by 3%. And we have Light's Wrath. I'm super, super happy to see that Light's Wrath is returning. This used to be your Legion artifact ability where you would shoot a giant bolt of light at a target, dealing more damage depending on how many atonements you have rolling, but let's see if they've changed it. Invoke the Light's Wrath, dealing damage to the target, increased by 10% per ally affected by your atonement. So I used to then just like spam out Radiance, throw a couple shields up on more people, and then just rocket this at a boss, and you could do so much damage. It is on a 1.5 minute cooldown, so it is a little bit more of a commitment. You'll have to know when to use it, or if you can use it for damage and or big group healing if your entire party has taken a lot of damage. So we have another choice over here between Halo and Divine Star. I'm not going to go too much into that. It's pretty similar. Stolen Psyche, Atonement heals for 10% more when activated by Mind Blast. So we do get that confirmation that Mind Blast is going to be used to proc Atonement. So if you want more shadow damage, big atonement heals, you might go right side rather than left side, which is really flavorful in my opinion. Twilight Empowerment, Shadow Word Death damage triggers atonement when used on targets below 20% health. So this will be kind of at the end of the fight, or if you're hitting an ad, to then just like burst up people with atonement, because Shadow Word Death deals so much damage. Super, super excited to see this as well. Bottom right, we have Wickedness, which augments your Divine Star and Halo. They transform into shadow damage abilities. Soladium, atonements granted by Shadow Mend last an additional 2 seconds. So you could go away where you go Lessons in Humility. No. Indemnity. Oh, could you do this? Could you go Indemnity and then go Soladium? Perhaps you can. Perhaps you can if you really want to. Let's just see. Well, Halo, yeah, you can. So if you really want to get more out of Power Word Shield and also Shadow Mend, you'll be able to then get a little bit extra atonement duration. With all of this, could we then like go into that? Yeah, we could. This could be kind of like a hybrid mixture of damage mitigation and big damage chunks. See, this is what I'm really super, super excited for with World of Warcraft Dragonflight's talent tree system and class design. I am someone who loves getting into the minutia of builds and creating maybe some more niche builds, creating more meta builds, and this to me is a playground. In and of itself, this is a game to me. I'd say my overall review of the Priest and the Discipline Priest is overwhelmingly positive. I am super, super excited to see more of these trees come. There hasn't really been anything in this where I'm like, aw, because it kind of is commonplace for what Discipline Priests have experienced with just added flavoring into it. So you can't really go wrong as long as you don't totally rework some things or strip away features from the class. So overall, I'm super, super happy with Discipline Priest. We might do a video on Holy Priest next, going over specifically Holy, but I love Priest so much. So thank you all so much for coming on by. Like the video if you liked it, comment below your thoughts about the talent tree system in World of Warcraft Dragonflight. And if you'd like to support the channel, we have a Patreon where you get early access to videos, and check out the Discord down below. I also stream on Twitch every single day, so I will see you all over there. Bye everyone! Mwah.